For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray that you and your families are completely safe and healthy as well. Today we have Dr. Rithvik Rai sir with us, the author of Love Untouched and the Golden Touch of Life. Thank you so much sir for coming on our show. We are highly grateful कि आप हमारे show पर आए.
Hey Gaurav, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Likewise, sir. So before we get into the podcast and know much more about your book, about your vision, branding, everything, I would request you to please introduce yourself and let us know much more about your journey, your childhood, and how you started writing.
Oh well, okay. Yeah. As you know, as you mentioned, my name's Rithvik. I'm from India. I'm from the southern part of India. Beautiful city called Mangalore. I'm not sure if you guys know about it. It's a nice small coastal city. We've got very nice beaches. So I grew up in Mangalore. I spent most of my life in Mangalore. From schooling up until my medical school, I did it all in Mangalore. And then about a year and a half ago, I decided to move to the UK. And currently I'm working right now in a hospital in the UK. And coming to the point where as to how I started writing, I'm not sure actually, to be honest. To be completely honest, I've never had the fascination to write as a child, or I don't even read many books actually. It just I decided just a couple of years ago, maybe 2 to 3 years ago, I just need to start penning down a couple of emotions and things of that sort. So I just started writing. It was just out of pure boredom, I guess, that I just wanted to have an outlet for the kind of thoughts I was having. And I think I started writing, and then it just started, a story started to form, and then a plot came up and things of that sort. And then I realized, okay, maybe I do enjoy this process of writing, and then that's how it just all started.
Okay. So sir, as we know that the book is released and it's performing really well on Amazon, I just saw. But from a new reader's perspective, like after listening to this podcast, many people will start exploring it and will be willing to just read it, give it a try. So from their perspective, what they can expect, like if you can share some insights about the book.
I'm not quite sure. So I think the second book that I wrote, The Golden Touch of Life, it's a free verse poetry. It's basically not poetry in its original sense, as in like maybe how we the mainstream poems are. It's not like that. It's just a random free verse poetry. But what I thought I would do with this kind of poetry is that I wanted to tell a story, but not in the sense of like a novel. So what I did was I had a certain plot in head. So what I decided was to tell the same plot, but try to tell it through poetry. So what I did with this book was I wrote multiple like free verse poetry, and there's a character who's the protagonist, and it spans over like 5 decades of his life. So each section of the poetry is like the readers go through a journey with the protagonist from his childhood up until like he's maybe in his 50s or 60s, and each poem is basically a specific section or a specific incident that took place in the protagonist's life. And it's basically a free verse section where as you read the poem, you also like unravel the story of this protagonist with him, and he takes you on flashbacks, and he comes back to the present, and it's the future. So it's basically a story but written in poetry.
In fact, what I feel, sir, writing a story is also a really big thing. But when it comes to poems, it's quite even more bigger than that, because you have to just choose certain words and just express those feelings in that case short terms words. That's only. So people who write poems, I truly feel they are completely blessed. And that's it. And okay, so it seems to be really interesting, sir, but my next question will be like, what motivates you to write on these topics, like the first one, Love Untouched, and the second one, The Golden Touch of Life? The first one is, I guess, as its name suggests, okay, it's sort of a love novella, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, and the second one, The Golden Touch of Life, is of which genre?
I would say, I mean, it's just, I think it has borderline philosophy and also a little bit of love and like, it's basically, because it's a lifespan of a person of 5 decades. So, a person goes through so many different emotions in 5 decades, don't they? So I think it's a mix of everything. The second one, I think, is more of a mix of a bit of philosophy, life, and like, maybe love.
So what was your inspiration behind writing that, sir?
Well, to be honest, I think the first one was, just out of love. I think back then, just probably I was in love maybe back then, and then decided that I have to probably express, because sometimes I think writing things helps you express things in a better way. For instance, sometimes you feel like, you're going to say this, you're going to say that, but then, always you end up, you struggle to express what you feel. But I think writing is that one space where, it's just you, your thoughts, and a pen and paper. So, you have all the time that you need, and you can frame what you want to express just exactly how you want to express it. And it was in that intention that I started writing the book. To be honest, I didn't think it would actually become a book or like anything of that sort, but it did. So that was about the first one. And I think the second one was more about I don't know, I just wanted to explore a bit, and like the second book is more dedicated to my parents, my dad and my mother. I just in some way wanted to express, it's not basically about them or anything of that sort, it's just, but in some way, I just captured some essences that I felt like, needs to be put down in a book. That's what the second one is about.
Okay. Sir, I read somewhere that it was written, those who are in love, they can only write books and shairis, quotes and all. It's not about the habits, because if it would be about habits, then the government employees, private employees, they keep on writing every day. So,
that's right.
When it comes to becoming a writer, love has a major role in it.
Fair. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah. Okay. So, sir, I guess your first book was released back in 2019. Then second one was in 2021. So almost a couple of years gap was there between. So as of now, like people who have read both of your books, what they can expect? Like, you want to experiment a bit on some other genres, or you want to stick on your old genres? Like, what's in the pipeline as of now?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, firstly, I think you've been too kind. I don't think I have that a bit. Like, the reader spectrum is still, I think I have a huge scope to grow on. But I'm not sure. To be honest, I like a lot of like suspense and thrillers and kind of things of that sort. But I also like romance. So that's why I try to like somehow put romance and like suspense and thriller in this. I know that they don't go well together as such, but even with my first book, I did try like, I bring in a bit of like, thriller from like a bit of, specific medical aspect of it, but not in the mainstream way. But I think that would be my, I find it very hard to move away from this genre. I don't know. I keep telling myself, I should write maybe like more thrillers, and like it excites me like to watch all these thrillers and suspense movies and videos. But I don't know, I do try to, but then I'm always like something about love and like romance and all it just keeps dragging me back to the same genre. But but yeah, it's very hard, I think, to find a balance between like if you're writing about romance but you also want to bring in like suspense or like a thriller in like a love story. It's very hard, isn't it? But I don't know, maybe someday.
Okay, we were recording for an episode, I guess a few days back. So that author told me the author don't choose the story choose the author to be expressed by him. So in your case, I guess you haven't chosen the love genre. Love genre has chosen you to be expressed by you. So that's the one thing.
That's very kind of you, but maybe you can put it that way, maybe.
So sir, my next question to you will be most of the authors are working to create a certain impact on their readers' mind. Like they want to be known, they want to be remembered as a certain genre of author. So like let's say a couple of years from now, if anyone picks up a book, it's a book by Dr. Rithvik Rai. So what sort of impact do you want to create on that reader's mind? Okay, it's a book by Rithvik sir, it must be like that, or I can feel something related to this book before I have read it. So is there any strategy? Have you ever thought about it?
I think, it's a good point actually, or it's a very good question that you asked. I think the way, or like my perspective when I write was, if I have to be brutally honest, I think I was very selfish in my writing up until this point. I think all readers, I think there are two kind of writers. One who just write for themselves because they just need an outlet to express, and there's someone else, like you mentioned, the group of writers who want to write something that the readers can connect with and maybe relate to. So I think when I think I always wonder that if someone reads something, I just want people to realize that somewhere someone else in some other corner of the world is feeling exactly what I'm going through. That kind of connect that you get through writing is what I feel is my ambition. When someone reads a line or a phrase or like a verse, they just feel like I'm going through this exact thing, and there is someone else. Because someone else has written this, there are more people who are feeling exactly the same thing, I think, and that makes us not feel so alone, and it just makes us feel like, oh, there is someone else out there. It's just, that's what I want to maybe I'm over ambitious with that goal, but just when someone reads or thinks about a book that if you're kind enough that I have written, they just think that, oh, I hope I can connect, something that I can connect with, But yeah.
So now coming to this industry, sir, as we can see, as we can just feel on Amazon when it comes to book section, we can see that hundreds of books are being published every week, we can say. The publishing has become so much easier, self-publication, Kindle direct publication has been introduced, lots of publication house, literary agents are there in market.
True.
Everyone
That's
is promoting to write, right? So what sort of competition as an author you're feeling in this industry? You have been what I can say, you have been an MBBS student, so competitions you are very much eager to face all those things. So what sort of competition do you feel in this industry? Like a sort of neck to neck competition, or you are someone who feels okay, it's a creativity field, and creativity there's no competition, every book will find its own reader? What's your take on this?
Well, I think it is more about creativity, isn't it? I mean, I do agree that it's a very competitive field, and it's very hard for you to if someone's very ambitious and goes I want my book only to be published by Penguin, Random House, or someone like that. So the literary agents are very specific as to who they pick and what they do. But I think it's more of a competition with oneself, in the sense that you have to feel is my story worth reading? I think it's a lot of introspection goes through, like a writer said, you just realize that, you ask yourself constantly, when you read something that you've written, or when you're writing a certain piece, you constantly ask yourself, is this worth reading? I think writers are very always seeking validation, in the sense that you keep asking yourself, is this worth reading? Is someone else going to want to read what I'm writing? And I think that's the main reason why all of us are the writers are always very unhappy with their own work because you just feel I've not done enough. So I think with competition, it's not very much so is your book better than mine, because it's very hard to compare, because they're different stories, the genres may be same, but I think it's more of a very personal competition. But if you're talking in the sense of getting published in a certain specific publishing house, or making X number of money or things of that sort, in that sense it can be competitive, based on how many books you sell and things of that sort. But I think it's more of a personal battle when you write, to be honest.
So that's also one point. So as of now, sir, do you have any particular writing schedule? Back in 2021, when the Golden Touch of Life was released, you told you a couple of 1.5 years ago you have just settled down in UK, right? So how hard it was for you to maintain those things, because settling in a complete different nation and parallelly writing, so was that one healing section for you, if I can say? Okay, everything is changed, but my writing is with me.
True. No, I mean, to be honest, I think for me, writing was never that, I'm going to sit down and write every day, or I'm going to sit down and it just came sometimes I could write 10,000 words in one go. By one go, I don't mean one day. I mean, I would write every single day till I read, because I just had that many thoughts in my head. And then sometimes I go months without writing anything, because I don't feel inspired. So But I think it's very important that you constantly, if not write like, you know, a major plot, just constantly are like either thinking or writing down like, you know, plots, small, because the thoughts don't stop, you know, as in like what I want to do. I think that's what it is. I think even like you mentioned that, you know, given that I moved to a different country or something like that. So other than, you know, you've got 24 hours in a day, you know, you've got your work, then after that, you know, you've got your house chores to do and things of that sort, but you always have time to like, you know, some thoughts or the other keep coming. So what I used to do is I have this habit where I keep a book and a pen next to me when I sleep. So because I get a lot of like, because when I, you know, I'm trying to sleep or I'm in sleep or when I'm just waking up, I get a lot of thoughts and like different like, very interesting characters. So what I do is I just write it down. I mean, they may be relevant to my plot or they may not be relevant to my plot, because I think you can always use, you know, if you're developing a certain character, he or she might not fit in a specific content that you're writing right now, but you can use the same character for something else you're writing, you know. It's like you're creating your own, like, you know, how in like, you know, now we have the metaverse and things of that sort. I think a writer has got his own world where there's just so many different characters and you just choose to use some of them, you know, whenever you want. So I think writing is just a constant, you know, you do get busy and you know, sometimes you don't have the time, but I don't think like, you know, you're thinking in a certain way and that thinking does not stop, you know, because I might meet an interesting patient who might be like, oh, I can actually write about like not the patient himself. I mean,
but the characters can be
of the patient. That's just the characters. So, you know, it's a constant process.
So basically, you know, there was a quote which I have read, and you must have been read that too. It was like, you know, creativity is something which follows you. You can't chase it. So that's completely true in your case, I feel.
Like I think you're right. You can't. It's like, it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like that. Like, you know, once you start thinking in a certain way, it's very hard. And you know, I think other any kind of creative, you know, artists would tell you is that, you know, they find it so hard to sometimes explain because they realize that the people around them do not understand or think in the way they do, and it's very hard. So that's why they try to express it through the art form, you know.
Definitely. So sir, as of now, we have talked about your journey, about your book, about your vision, about your branding, everything. Now coming to your personal life, like there must be many, but can you share with us like what was the most happiest moment of your life? If any one of, can you share with us them?
Happiest moment of my life. That would be a very difficult one, to be honest. I mean, if like in that sense, happiest or saddest, or like if I think in any of those terms, it would be very hard, I think. Maybe, I mean, not to take away from the credits of my books, I think, but the happiest day was, I think, the day I found out that I became a doctor. I think that was pretty, because I had the dream of becoming a doctor since I was like maybe 5 or 6. So, you know, it was a long, you know, I mean, just if, you know, to just pin one of the happiest moments, I think it would be that.
Definitely, sir. And any of the you know, moments which you think, you know, was not good, or how you pump up yourself when you're down, can you share with our listeners?
Let's see, when I'm down or when I'm feeling sad, I don't know, usually to be honest, I write when I'm sad. Maybe it really helps me express, because I mean, I don't think, I mean, pumping up or like, you know, motivating yourself through sadness, it's personally what like I feel is like I go through the process, you know, I accept it and I just, you know, it's a process, so I just go through it. But I don't think I can pin down a specific incident or anything that, you know, was my low point or like I felt extremely sad about. It would be very difficult at this moment.
No issues, sir. So let's say if you know, let's imagine a situation, okay, tomorrow your book is about to be released, right? So today evening, what goes in your mind? Like, if you can remember those days, what goes in your mind? Were you feeling excited, you know, nervous? You were satisfied, okay, the book is finally about to release, or you know, you have, you know, just marked up some milestones for your book, okay, these many people know me, these many people follow me, so it has to do this much of sales. What goes in your mind at that time?
Oh no, I mean, to be honest, I'd never ever think about sales or like how much it's sold. I think, to be honest, I've been a person who just needs to get it out. Once the book is out, like I know it's not the best thing, but like once I'm like, it's the process that interests me. Once I'm done with the process, the product itself is not very what do you tell, pleasing, or like I'm not very materialistic in the sense of that. It's the process, it's because the process takes months, years, and it's really interesting sometimes. But I think it's just a lot of satisfaction, when it's completely done, like you mentioned, the day before, like, where the publishing house tells you that, we are ready to go, and like tomorrow will be like, you'll get the first copy or something of that sort. I think that's very interesting, because you get like a physical manifestation of your process. So like, I think that's very interesting. So I think it's more of excitement more so than anxiety, or like, I'm not too anxious of like, how many people is it going to reach or things of that sort.
Definitely. And in fact, what I personally feel that let's say if we are doing something primarily in our life, right? And I guess most of the authors are doing it as a hobby, as a passion, or as a way to convey their words, their feelings. So if in that process, like in our primary job, we are fighting for everything, just competitiveness, everything is there. But it is something which is going to be let us escape from that world. And if in that as well we judge ourselves with numbers, then the whole essence of that process is completely gone.
I agree. I totally agree.
Okay, so sir, as of now, what's your current mental state? Like as a doctor, as a person, as an author, what are the things which you are focusing upon in life?
Well, I mean, I think, Gaurav, to be honest, mental state-wise, I think I'm in a very good mental state actually. I think I'm doing very good career-wise as well, and writing-wise as well. But I actually do have some plans, with the writing. I just want to. I don't think I've written something that is worth remembering me by yet, as of yet. In the sense, I don't mean that, I don't mean to disregard my work from the past, but I just mean that, you always feel like your next one is going to be your best one. So I just want to write that. Like, I'm still waiting for that one line, that when you write that line, that, oh, this is the line that
you yourself feel okay, it's the best one.
Just so I'm just still waiting on that one. So I'm still that's maybe the space I'm in. But otherwise, field wise, medicine wise, I'm more than happy with where I am. But writing is something which I always see myself doing. I mean, to be honest, I'm actually trying to write more, and I'm trying to lean towards writing more actually. I just sometimes, you just don't get the time in the kind of jobs you do sometimes. But I see myself actually forcing myself to write more and, try to get into more of like creative writing, things of that sort.
Okay. So my last question to this podcast would be, sir, what are your advices for the upcoming authors? Like, many upcoming authors will be listening to this podcast, and, they will be holding their first draft in their laptop, in their diaries, in their notebooks. So what are your advices for them?
Well, advice would be, I think one of my favorite quotes, which I always use, is that, we may not be great writers, but we can always be great rewriters. In that sense, like, just write whatever you think you want to write. If it does not work out, you can always change it. You can rewrite something else. It's basically, anything that you do. I think a lot of us, when we just start writing, we have a thing of like, it's very hard to get out of our shells of, oh, what are they going to say, or what is like, because most of your writing sometimes can be due to a lot of like, personal essence that you've taken from your own life. So you're worried like, who might think what. I think it takes especially like, it just takes a lot of courage, I think, to just start writing first. I think once we get in the process of writing, we start realizing that, our content is more important than, a specific person or like, a group of people. So I think once we start doing that, it just takes. So I think just forget about the product, or forget about, the appeal of it, or like, is it going to be accepted or rejected. I think just start writing, just start writing. Just take a tissue paper if you want, take a paper, take a book if you want to write anywhere. Just start writing. Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this beautiful episode, and if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. And don't forget to buy and read the book. आप just Amazon पे जाएं, and there you can search Dr. Rithvik Rai.
you will be able to see both of the books. Just buy them, read them, and just share with your friends and family. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on our show. It was my honor to host you today.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you, Gaurav. Take care. Thank you so much.